got some people to recognize tonight. Let's get it right away. Let's give a general round of applause to our classes of 74 and football classes of 74 and 75 for getting here tonight. Thank you. My name is Brian Hensel, and I'm one of the Mike Pettine Foundation board members. I also teach at the school, and I'm an assistant coach on the staff this year as well. I had the great fortune of being a head coach in the program and now returning for my swan song, I guess you could say. It's so great coming to events like this. 32 years ago, I was able to walk in the doors and was welcomed with open arms by Coach Pettine and started my high school coaching career. And all you guys had the great privilege of playing for him and with him, and I got the great pleasure of being around him. And he was like a second father to me, and I've heard so many guys that I've had conversations with tonight say the same thing. So everything we do here is in his memory, and he started something in the year 2000 with a scholarship for a boy and a girl at the school. And there's a lot of people in this room that are responsible for getting that off the ground. And the Mike Pettine Foundation does a lot of things, including the support of the Mike Pettine Memorial Scholarship for one boy and one girl every year. So thank you for coming out and being supportive of that financially. That's just one of the many things that the organization does do. I'm going to take a minute and put on my eyes. If you turn to the inside of your cover of your program, you'll see it fills a whole page of student athletes that have been recognized through the Pettine Scholarship in one name or another. Some of the names that are on there have gone on to do great service for our country in the military. Some have served in the White House. Others are doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs. They've gone on to some great things, and I know about 80% of those names from having taught them. It really does make a big difference. So take a look at those names, and you might recognize some of them. Just to overview a few things, the golf funds and the donations support the scholarship, but there are also some things we want to make you aware of. In the age of Google, if you Google the Mike Pettine Foundation website, you're going to find a brand new overhauled website that's just extremely user-friendly. You can see some of the great things that we're involved with. For classes of 75 and 74, I should say the football classes of 75 and 74, you're seeing that we've been playing your game films. If you go to the website, broken down by decade and by year, you can find every game. There are a couple years that are still not up there yet, but great chance to get together with some old friends and have some laughs. So they're all there, they're preserved. And again, just all of this is about the guy who kind of pulled us all together and made our lives pretty special. So today we get to recognize, that's right. Today we get a chance to recognize the football classes of 74 and 75. And we're going to have two speakers tonight. The first guy I'd like to introduce is a guy named Frank Ventresca. Frank was the 1974 CB West undefeated team starting quick guard. Is that right, Frank? Quick guard? That was my position too. I love that. Very good. For those of you who don't know Frank, he's a successful businessman and owner of Ventresca Limited, one of the leading men's specialty clothiers in the Delaware Valley. He has served leadership roles within his industry, including the role of president of the Custom Tailors Designers Association. That's the CTDA. It's the oldest trade organization in the country. He co-chaired the development of the organization's educational program, and his company has received many Best of awards and recognitions regionally as well as nationally. Among them is the Entrepreneurial Business Recognition from the Philadelphia Business Journal. Ventresca Limited celebrates its 44th year this October, Frank? 44 years, that's amazing. And over the years, Frank has spent a great deal of time attending and supporting many community events alongside Coach Pettine and supporting CB West and CB West football. So at this time, I'd like to bring Frank Ventresca up to the microphone and talk about the class of 74 season. Congratulations, Frank.
Thank you.
Here's your mark right there for the microphone's on.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you and commend the wonderful job the foundation chair people have put on and the endless amount of work, effort, energy it takes behind the scenes and the time it takes. Mike Starner reached out to me. Good round of applause for Michael and his team. I asked him, I said, why, Michael? I said, we had a lot of talented people on our team, and there's a handful that are here today. And I said, why pick me? I was an average player. I started my senior year, but we went undefeated. We had a great team. We had great chemistry and a lot of hard work. The team was united. But with that, and he said to me, and I didn't realize it until he told me this, and it was only a few months ago. He said, out of all the guys we played with, out of all the guys we graduated with in our year, you spent the most amount of time with Coach post-graduation. And it dawned on me that I guess he was right, because I didn't think about it, but I jot down a few things of time we've spent together, and these are all behind the scenes after graduation to give you an idea about Coach Pettine. And all of us in this room know him, but it was amazing some of the things that we went through. And I believe in God and I believe in destiny, and I believe things happen for a reason. And it was back in '08, I'm sitting with a group of guys, we're out to dinner, we're having dinner, and a good buddy of mine is sitting across the table, and his guest is sitting right next to me. And I introduce myself, he sticks his hand out, and he shakes my hand and he says, Carmen Pettine. And I said, any relation to Coach Mike Pettine? He says, Mike's my brother. Carmen was chief of police at Plymouth Township. And so we're talking for a while. He pulls out his phone, makes a phone call. He says, I'm sitting next to a friend of yours. And he hands me the phone. I said, hey, Coach. And he said, Ventresca? I said, yep. And we start talking. And I said, Junior, who was here earlier today, was working down at the Ravens. And I was going down there to see Coach Harbaugh. This was his first year after he had left the Eagles. And I said, I'm going down to the Ravens next week. You available? You want to go? He says, yes. 7:30, a week later, I pick him up in CB South parking lot. We drive down to Owings Mill, Maryland, where the Under Armour practice facility is for the Ravens. We go in, watch morning practice, have lunch with Junior. They show us around, show us his office. He goes with Junior, and I spend a little time with Harbaugh. And then afternoon practice was closed. So we had taken our clubs, and they made arrangements for us to play a course down there that they play. And he and I played golf. Then we came home, stopped at Cracker Barrel, had dinner. I dropped them off at 9:30 in the parking lot. And I said, what are you doing next week? He says, nothing. It was on a Monday, and that started a routine. I would play in the Coaches versus Cancer. The Big Five coaches would have a golf outing every year amongst a number of events. And for those of you who don't know, Coach Pettine grew up in Conshohocken. His nickname was the Conshohocken Comet, and he got a scholarship to Villanova. So being a Villanova alumni, being Big Five, and at that time Jay Wright was their coach. Coach Martelli is a good friend of mine, and that's why I participated. And every year I would take a foursome, and he would always be in that foursome, except for 1 year when Junior was coaching at the Browns. And he used to drive from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, all the way out to Cleveland. He didn't fly, and then he would drive back. So he would drive out on a Friday and come home on a Monday. The Coaches versus Cancer was always on a Monday, and we would play in it every year. And that one year we didn't play because he was out at the Browns. But it was funny, the very last time he played in that was September of '16. And then he would go to Florida because his daughter lived in Florida, and he would spend the winters down there, and he would play golf all winter long. He had a heart attack in February, and he died. It was so weird that on the tee box, we're standing there and we get a photograph. Joe Bucciarelli, Joe Ventresca, myself, Coach Pettine, Coach Martelli. That picture hangs in my store.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Right here.
It was 16. It was September of 16, and that was the last time I saw him. It was very weird.
What course was it?
It was Lanark. Coach Martelli belonged in Lanark, and we would play there every year. Yeah. So, anyway, that was, every year we'd play in it, and I'd be in the cart with him, and there'd be another cart, and with that, you know, it was the same thing like this. You're waiting on tee boxes, you're waiting in the fairway, and we drove the ball. We're in the fairway, and I turned to him. I said, "How did you know when it was time to stop coaching?" And without hesitation, he turned to me, and he said, "I was getting parents coming into my office after practice, and they would tell me about, it's not my job to discipline their kid. If I have something to say to them, I was to call, that he was to call them and talk to the parent, and the parent would talk to the kid." He said, when that started to happen, I knew it was over.
Real, yeah. I got fired for the same reason.
So, yeah. And I never dawned on it, but what had happened before that, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. For about a half a dozen years, he was catching all kinds of shit from the school board. Initially, it was softer, but towards the end, it was pretty consistent. And what had happened was, there was 2 other high schools, which everybody knows, and the parents at those high schools and some of the coaches were giving the school board shit that CB West this, CB West that. You know, he was a true legend at the time, and at the same time, you know, the school board was giving him feedback that academics, and that Central Bucks is a blue ribbon school, and that academics are important and athletics are not everything, and you know, you should go a little easier, you should do this. And anybody that knew Coach, he had an on and off switch. That was it. When it was time to go on, that was the game. And anybody that ever played for Coach knew one thing. What's second place? What's second place? First loser. Correct answer. You play the game to win. There is no other reason. You don't show up. So how do you turn around and turn the dial down on a person like that? It's not going to happen. So there were a number of stories over and over. Junior was here earlier. You know, you talk about tradition, you talk about living and having to fill shoes. His father was one of the winningest football coaches in the country, one of the winningest football coaches in the state, and Michael has to live in those shadows. You turn around and move fast forward, and he becomes an NFL coach. And he started in the trenches, assistant to an assistant, and then little by little gets an assistant position coach, gets into as a position coach, defensive coordinator, on and on till he gets to Cleveland, head coaching job, and at this point he's 22 years in the league. So, you know, you talk about stepping up and filling shoes. That's an amazing accomplishment. Amazing. Because an average person would have buckled and put their head down and crawled out. A person who turns around and thrives and says, I'm going to do this, rises up, challenges the position, and then succeeds. And that was perfect. 3 Spinozas, team captains.
Oh, whoa, look at that.
There you go. David, Tony, Johnny.
Paisanos.
Right there. Perfect timing. Tony, put your hand up. Team captain.
Love you, man.
Yep.
Drop it, give me 20.
So, yeah, there was a lot of talented people on our team, and there's one of them. And, you know, taking the position where Michael asked me to do this, I really appreciate this, but at the same time, turning around and sharing these stories, you know, and having the opportunity to share some things that were behind the scenes that Coach Pettine did was pretty amazing. And over time, you know, he was still the same person. Dries knows that. He played a lot of golf with him. Butchie played golf with him all the time. But in our class, I had that opportunity. And, you know, he would always throw the one-liners, the zingers out. He would turn around and hang on. Greg, is that you? Bob, is that you? Okay. Carrie's not here. So you saw 3 Spinozas. So that's 9 seasons right there with Coach Pettine. Carrie's were 4 brothers. That's 12 seasons.
I was in sophomore year 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, you get 4 years, right. Right. Case gets 4 years. But Ventresca's, I have 3 brothers and 2 cousins. So if you do the math, it's 18 seasons with Coach. And undefeated, and most of them were undefeated. So thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to share some behind the scenes story. Michael, I hope this meets some of the criteria that you had in mind with post-graduation stories with Coach. I drink to your health and to Coach Pettine. All the best. Go ahead. All right. Here you go.
Let's hear it for Frank, guys. Nice job. Real nice job. I wanted to take a minute, and I didn't recognize the Mike Pettine Foundation staff. If you guys could stand up, anybody who's here from the foundation, if you could stand up and just kind of give a wave to the crowd. Got Will DeShanes, Mike Starner, Mike Radigan, Chris Cleveland. I can't see that far. Brandon Golden, there we go. Brandon Golden, very good. So yeah, they're where we want to be, right? So, hey, what a phenomenal opportunity here. I feel blessed to be part of this because I'm an outsider. I came in, I didn't go to CB West, but I've been in the Central Bucks community for 32 years now. And I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to be up here, and it's humbling for sure. This next guy that I want to bring up is going to be representing the classes of not just 74, but 75 as well.
Sophomore year was long.
It was a long year. There you go. Frank Case played defensive end and Parade All-America team, correct? Senior year? Congratulations. While playing at Penn State, Frank was the recipient of the 1980 Fiesta Bowl Sportsmanship Award and was named the team MVP that year. Am I right? Defensive MVP? His professional career included playing with the KC Chiefs, Philadelphia Stars, and the San Antonio Gunslingers. Following his playing days, Frank served as a dedicated English teacher and a coach in the Colorado public school systems. Frank made several phone calls to Coach Pettine and talked football and strategies and planning over the years, and I'd like him to say just a few words and address his inductee class. Frank Case. Congratulations.
Good man, awesome. That's my mark? Okay, thank you so much. Tom, first of all, thank you, Tom, for being here and taking care of this. Wow, he is an OG guy. I don't know if you know that. He's been doing this since he was like 7. He started. True. I'm not kidding. He did all the Del Val stuff with when I first did that years ago, and when they really literally invented cable TV. Like literally, Mike Starner, like, let's put a cable to your house and it'll have TV. Yeah, you guys don't know that, but that's OG stuff, right, Tony? So, and also, before anything else, look at that picture, man. Look at that. Who is that? Tom Herman? Okay, cool. All right, great. I wasn't sure. I just really like that. I thought that was really cool.
Photographed by Sean Duffy.
Sean Duffy.
Kicker, who unfortunately
The kicker took the picture?
he went on to do that professionally.
Oh, okay. Well, while Sherry's talking, everybody stand up for Sherry. This wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Sherry Starner. You know, as you may or may not know, I'm out of Colorado now. I moved 40 years ago to Colorado Springs. 5 Ponds, wow, what a venue. If they're here listening, Warminster Township, it's amazing because in Colorado where I golf, we don't have conditions like this. Like it never mists. I was like, yeah, my skin is so porous. It was amazing. And can I say I like the water features? There was good water features. There was, I'm making fun of water because you guys like, I say that in Colorado, I say, oh, I need a glass of water. They're like, what are you, anyhow. And they have trees. I'm not kidding, man. That was really super beautiful. I just really like that. I was really blown away by the digitized film. That totally blew me away, man. I just really appreciate that. And I encourage you guys, I myself too need to go to the website. I have not done that too much, but when you see it, it's like ghosts on the screen, man. There's something about it, and it's even better than it used to be in some way. So, is Ed Bentz still here? Ed, you still here? Ed, are you here? He might have left. Nick Adams, are you here? Stand up, man. You here, Nick? They might have left. Tommy Jarrett, I know you're here. Where's Tommy? All you guys ghosted me. Okay, how about Rick Christensen? Anyhow, I'm glad they were able to really participate in this today. And as you know, we're trying to endow this scholarship. We're trying to endow it. Where's Guy Driesbach? Endow means to grow it, okay? Means to make it bigger, okay? Remember that. So, when I started taking notes on my phone here, you know, I just gave it a title. And it's totally appropriate because it made me think of my 2 favorite coaches, my 2 big coaches. And so, Frank, I called it Paisanos, okay? Spinoza, we call the Paisanos. This is my speech about the Paisanos, Pettine and Paterno, okay? And they were total Goombas, man. As soon as they met each other, they were like fucking talking like this, like hiding their lips. And, you know, they were holding each other's arms and walking down the street. They did. They loved each other. I don't know how much time they actually spent together, but they were really simpatico, man. They were. Like you said, the Concha Happen comment, and Joe Paterno had a name. I can't remember what it was, but he had some kind of a alliterative name. Alliterative means the words go with the letter. So they were total Goombas. And by the way, the matching shirts, my crew, we got matching shirts because I knew if the Ventrescas were here, we were going to have to represent. Okay, Lenny, big hitter? Okay. What do you want, thunder or lightning? Kiss your biceps.
We voted on pastel.
You know, in a serious way, one thing I want to say this, I know you guys are going to really like this. There's a military phrase, more or less, and it goes, here's to absent companions. I don't know if you're familiar with that, absent companions. And I know we look around the table, we look at our buddies, and there's a lot of people who aren't here that we wish were here. Okay? So I want to say, for me personally, somebody give me a drink. I need an absent companion. Okay? Here's my toast to absent companions. I'll hold off on that. You can't drink water. It's got to be at least a beer, right, Tony? So, hooah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what it is. Now I remember. That's an Army thing. Absent companions, right? All right. We'll move on from that because it's very, very emotional. You know, did you hear about the old fish, the fly that swims out into the pond? And he goes into the pond and he comes up on the little guppy. And he says to the little guppies, how's the water? And the little guppy says, what's water? Okay, and so we don't always know what pond we're in. We don't even know the fucking pond. Sorry, but we don't. I didn't know the pond I was in, right, Tom? We didn't know how good we had it at that point. And so I just really think about that. You know, my senior year of high school, Lou Holtz, Bo Schembechler, Joe Paterno, and Sports Illustrated were in my house. And it was a prison. And it was a prison. I mean, that was the thing. That was the juice, right? That was the, what would you call it? The clickbait now that, oh, the guy's in a prison. And so a lot of that happened. And I was at the house one day. I don't know if John was here. I don't know if Stemp was here. I don't know who was there. Wayne might have been there. And I look out, and there's a guy escaping. And he's like this. He's on the wall. He's on this perpendicular wall to the outside wall, and he's shimmying across the wall. He's holding on to the barbed wire, and he's shimmying across the wall. Were you there?
No.
Were you in prison too?
I was walking to Fanny Chapman at that time.
Yeah, maybe. And so I go running in the house, and I say, Dad, there's a guy escaping, and my dad's drinking a bourbon and reading the paper, you know. And my mom picks up the phone, and she goes, Roundhouse, turn on the juice. You know, you hear this.
Light dim.
And then she says, okay, that's enough, turn it off. Push. And then you know what you hear next? All the guard dogs come out. So, my mom, what a sweetheart.
So was Bubba okay?
So, you know, they tried to tear the prison down, right? You guys know this story? They tried to tear it down, right? But they got partway in and they realized it was literally indestructible. That's the way I heard the story. They could not knock it down. You know, they took something and they turned it into the Dimensional Museum. Oh my gosh, and library. It's stunning. I'm going tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I got a ticket. You can go. I'm not kidding. I go every year. Actually, I'm going to Fawn Hill tomorrow. I have that anyhow. And so I think about that, where you take this big, my dad would call it massive, medieval, monkey cage, monstrosity that is this terrible place to be in some ways, and you turn it into something transcendent, something beautiful that your community, you know, you up-purpose it. It's great, right? So, Doylestoниans, you guys from Bucks County, thanks for doing that kind of stuff, man. Give yourselves a hand. Seriously, man. That stuff happens, right? You go. You get a membership. You go on a Thursday night. It's just lovely. James Michener, oh my gosh. Everybody remembers the Micheners. Those are some other famous Thunder Bucks. Guys remember Ralph going to the CB games? You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah. Ralph.
You guys all remember that?
Yeah, Mr. yeah. Who threw the ball?
So,
Say a prayer.
again, that story reminds me of you personally, because it takes something really ugly, not you, Sherry, and it makes something really ugly and it turns it into something great. Okay? Big Red, love you, man. Okay, so, love a Viking. When I was in high school, I liked Coach's class. I don't have too much to say, honestly, about the other side, and I love that too. No, I love that too. But I remember being in his class and just enjoying it and being, conversational and talking about civics and things like that. So I really liked that. I went on, and again, I didn't know what I was doing in terms of scale, but at Penn State, what a class. Bruce Clark, Matt Millen, Mike Gooman, Chuck Facina. Whew! I mean, I had Bruce Clark and Matt Millen, and I had to play nose guard at that point. Think about that. Are you going to double Matt Millen, or are you going to double team Bruce Clark and let me go and take one skinny-ass center on? Thank you. So it was a really terrific thing. We got 2 Fiesta Bowls and the Sugar Bowl. Down at the Superdome, I was in the doghouse. I told people I have my own wing of the doghouse. And at the Superdome, at the Sugar Bowl, I go down there and I get in this Sugar Dome. Have you guys been in the Superdome? Remember how that was a thing? Like when we were kids, that was the first mega, right? We get in the Superdome, and he's mad at me. And I go in to the Superdome. It was just like Star Wars. It was like the Death Star. I don't know. It was so big. And there was a cheerleaders over here were making this little formation. And I go to Steve Stupar, who you might know him if you went to Penn State. And I said, Steve, take my picture. And I go over to the cheerleaders, and I stand like, I had a cowboy hat on, and I stand like this with the cheerleaders, and there's nobody in the stadium. It's like 3 hours before the game, right? And I hear this. I'm like taking my picture, and I hear this, Case! 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 Fucking rolls out through the whole stadium. Take your hat off, you big baby! You'll never play here! That was it. So, that was my Superdome. And can I say this? Any Penn Staters here? Where's my Penn Staters here? We are. Penn State! Thank you for showing up, yo. I just want to make sure we all know that. I'm moving on quickly because we don't want to be too biased. I made it to the Chiefs. Wow. I was sitting in my house or apartment at Penn State with the head coach, assistant coach from the Cowboys. Gentleman, I don't know his name, but he went on to have a really, really good career. He was very famous. I forget his name. And he was ready to sign me for the Cowboys. And as that happened, the phone rang, and the Chiefs picked me in the 11th round right after our quarterback in the 11th round. And so, I don't know, that just was really great that Jensen's were involved. I love that, man. Okay? Tom Jensen here. Give Tom a hand for showing up today. Love you, man. So, I played a little bit. We went with the Stars, got to play in DeVet. It was so great. I would drive home. I would drive here every day. I would drive back and forth. And I would go down the stadium to Three Rivers. I would stop at the diner and get 2 eggs over and coffee and go in and be home by 4. You know how you know when you're getting cut in the NFL? Anybody know that? Anybody know how you get cut in the NFL? I do. Here's how you get cut in the NFL. I heard somebody say it. That's right.
They take your name off your locker.
Yeah, but that's right. But first, I remember I went out and every day you go out and they have a contact sheet like, okay, you got to be like, second team punt or whatever, all the way down. Like, why isn't my name on there anymore?
The depth chart.
Yeah, the depth chart. And then you go out to take the drill and they're like, no, Steinbeck, get another one. No, Steinbeck, get another one, and anyhow, that's how you get cut. They just stop calling your name. But then, what do you do when you're 25 years old and your life dream is over? You completed your life dream at the age of 25, and I struggled, man. I did. I struggled. I think about a 100-yard dash where, you got to run 105 yards. If it's you know what I mean? So I felt like I struggled there. But at Penn State, they really helped me finish up, and I went on to do that. And I thought about, what makes you happy? It's kind of like a weird question, like, what makes you happy, man? And I thought, I really liked high school. And I thought about, some of my happiest days, honestly, and maybe you can agree with it in a way at least, were some of your happiest days, man. You had Coach Minucci, you had Coach Harrington, you had the Reeds down the street, you had you had all your boys there, all your friends. My sister Polly taught there, and I remember Coach Pettine's class, and I thought, well, shit, I could sit in the dark and watch movies, draw up football plays. That'll be good. Remember the 8mm, fellas? Be like, they're right about. Oh my God. So I became a teacher, and I really loved it. I coached for like 15 years, and I would, and to finish quickly, or not quickly, but what I mean is, I got to call Coach at the end. When I was coaching around maybe 2000 or something like that, I would call him and he would counsel me. Not about plays. And you know what I remember? Is he didn't really give me a ton of advice. He just listened. That's how I remember it. You know how sometimes you just got to articulate your problems. Articulate means talk really clearly. So, thanks, God. Can we have a hand for the Driesbach family? Wow. Love these guys so much. So I did really enjoy that. And I just wanted to point that out. That it's just really satisfying. Maybe you guys have this in your life. I don't have kids, by the way. I don't have children, so I don't have that friendly relationship that a lot of you guys would have your kids. And I just really appreciated that. I did, man. I thought that was really cool for me personally. You become friends with your coaches and mentors. So I'm going to shut it down, but I want to know if anybody has any questions they want to ask. Do you have any questions for me before I call it a night? Does anybody have anybody not in yellow? Does anybody not in yellow have a question?
I got one for you, and this is really for everybody in the room. Did Coach Pettine teach you more about X's and O's, or how to be a man?
I'm going to say both, straight up, man. You had to know your playbook. And, that's part of it is process. You trust the process. Every coach knows that. You trust the process. Basics. We didn't even say, we didn't always say it that way, but now you trust the process. You play like you practice. That's a paternalism. You play like you practice. So, he did. He taught me about being kind. That's part of it too, is just being kind. I think we've all had coaches that we love because they rode us hard and they pushed us. But we've also had coaches who could have been kinder. You know what I mean? I think about that personally. I've had a coach say that to me, I could have been less mean. You know what I mean? So I don't think he was mean. I think that he was all those things, but ultimately kind and thoughtful, to all the students. That's why I talked about the class, because I love the class, and in a small way. It wasn't a life changer, but it was cool, and it's good to have success when you're a struggling student. And I went on, by the way, to have 3 degrees and have a master's degree and keep up with my education like many of us has. Can I say this also? So many of you out here, I admire you so much. I do. I admire you guys. All you business persons coming out there hustling, all these business owners, and I've never hired or fired anybody in my life. And I think about that. And I think that you guys have done that. That's a skill set, man. I thank you for firing people like me. I'm kidding, but what I mean is, Bobby Ventresca's in the back. Woohoo! That's you. You look buff, dude. You on a steroid cycle still? You doing decadorobalin? One more question. Anybody else got a question? Anybody else? I had 3 love affairs with football. I had a love affair when I was a high school player. When I was a young player, I had a love affair. I had a love affair as a player, and then I hated it. I had a love affair as a coach, and then I hated it. And then I had a love affair as a fan. I had a 3rd love affair as a fan, where I just loved it. And, my wife loved fantasy football, loved it. And I'm like, I'd be doing something, she'd be like, it's Thursday, put the game on. I'm like, yes! So I'll leave you with this because you'll like this. Mrs. Paterno, Sue called me last year, a couple of months ago. Not everybody knows this, and I'm going to say this and close it out. I lost my wife, famous Penn Stater. She's a famous Penn Stater from the Eberly School of Science, highly trained physician. She's a unicorn. And I lost her. And Mrs. Paterno called me, and I was driving. And I pulled over, and I was sitting on the side of the road. And she said, when I lost Joe, I said to myself, you're on a different journey now, Sue. And she said that to me. You're on a different journey now. You're on a different journey now. And I really embrace that, and thank you for embracing me.